Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living life to its fullest? Are you ready and willing to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Well, let's get started, my friends. Welcome to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Before we get started with today's episode, let me remind you of the incredible sale I have going on right now where you can get your copy, signed copy, of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life for only $5. That's right. Go over to www.expansionmastery.com, check it out, enter the promo code Heaven on Earth, all one word, and you will save 75% off of the cover price of the book. I'll sign it and ship it to you. So it's just $5 plus shipping. Go there for all the details. Check it out. Get yours while supplies last. All right. So this is the third installment of a 5-part series on the 5 potentials and 5 powers. We know that human beings possess an incredible amount of power, but most people never figure out how to unlock that power. Well, there are 5 ways to begin doing so. And what we want is to accumulate all 5 of these, not to pick and choose or to take 1 or 2. We need to unlock all 5 in order to truly unleash the power that we have as human beings. So in this third episode, I'll be addressing the potential and power of mindfulness. Now, I know you've been hearing me talk about mindfulness for a long time now. There's a reason for that. It's because that is the foundation upon which all of your spiritual practices, your meditative practices, your meditation is going to be built. Without mindfulness, it is not possible to live a fully engaged life. We need mindfulness. That's at the very heart of living a fully engaged life. Mindfulness is the very foundation of all spirituality. Without a sense of mindfulness, all of the other practices that you perform are highly unlikely to yield any real success. It's mindfulness that allows us to prevent the unconscious tumbling backwards into the same old mindless habits once we do get started. It's very easy. Look at people with diets, right? How easy is it for them to start a diet? They start a diet, they lose 10 pounds, 15 pounds, and then they have a cheat day, and then they have a cheat weekend, and then pretty soon, before they even realize it, they have slipped back into their old mindless habits of eating, and now they've gained back that 15 pounds and 10 or 15 pounds on top of it, right? And you know what I'm talking about because this happens with nearly any habitual behavior, especially anything that we are suffering from some form of addiction to. Whenever we try to stop it, we have a mindless moment and we relapse right back into those old habits. The same thing happens with meditation and other spiritual practices. We do good for a while, we're excited, and then, we're distracted and we get focused on something else and I'm real busy right now, right? That's the buzzword that allows everybody to slip back into their old habits. I'm busy, I'm just too busy, or I just got busy, life got in the way. Those are excuses and nothing more. We can't allow that. And when we are mindful, we do not allow that to happen to us. Things like being pulled back into negative thought patterns, getting sucked into distractions, addicted to entertainment, and mistakenly believing that you are either your mind, your body, or even your ego just won't happen when you have a state of mindfulness. But without mindfulness, the likelihood of you getting pulled back into those things is quite substantial. You must realize something. The mind, or the ego, likes to take anything and create a story of understanding around it in order to create a false belief that it knows all about it already. This is why so many times you're introducing something new, some new concept or principle to someone, whether you're teaching martial arts or you're teaching in a classroom or you're just sharing some experience or knowledge with somebody, and they're sitting there and they're shaking their head. Oh, yeah, right? They'll shake their head and they'll say, yeah, no, I get that, I understand that. And they haven't a clue of what it even is about. Until you mention it, they didn't even know it existed. But see how fast, lightning fast, the unconscious mind will form some sort of story, some narrative around it, so that it believes that it knows what you're talking about. The mind takes in any information, anything new, whether it's hearing it or seeing it, and it filters it unconsciously. It filters it through all of your beliefs, your past thought patterns, your stored images, all of those things, and it filters it through that. So by the time you think, yeah, I know what you're talking about, you don't have a clue what they even said. But the ego has already formulated an entire scenario around it, an entire narrative to where you think now that you know. This is part of how the ego creates its comfort zone. See, this happens. Before we know it, this happens because it's the unconscious mind that goes through that process. Mindfulness is the ability to be consciously aware of the unconscious. So we develop the power to actually make the unconscious conscious. And it's there that we can engage it and work on it and change these mindless and unconscious thought processes. As the ego continues to become increasingly inflated, this sort of thing has gotten substantially worse. In the West, especially, people tend to define things like mindfulness in accordance to what fits their current beliefs, current level of knowledge, and a current agenda, without ever having a true sense of what mindfulness as a spiritual foundation truly refers to. I've explained this in the past, so I won't go into great detail again here. I'm bringing it up to make sure that you're not falling back into this mindless habitual trap. But let's understand the fundamental differences in the word mindfulness. Most people tend to believe it's got something to do with the mental focus or awareness for something, and that awareness can simply be whatever you decide you want it to be at any given time. They generally see mindfulness as something as simple as paying attention to something, when in reality that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of what is truly meant by this term mindfulness. You have to remember that the term mindfulness is being translated from other languages that don't translate very well at all into English. You see, contrary to popular Western belief, you cannot just make up some practice and call it mindfulness. It's simply not truly mindfulness at all. This distinction is crucial because to think that you can just understand something, you don't even know what they're truly referring to, how can you understand it? If you can just sit and relax and breathe and think that's a mindfulness practice, you're way off base. That's just delusional. Mindfulness does not refer to being full of mind, but just the opposite. Think about that. Mindfulness is not actually referring to something of the mind. Imagine that. Imagine that. Try to make sense out of it now, huh? Mindfulness is a state of being that is beyond the mind and so far beyond the ego. Mindfulness is a state of conscious awareness that has awakened, at least to some degree, and is actively in the process of awakening fully. I like the term mindfulness, but in truth, it may be more accurate to use a term like consciousfulness. Yes, I realize I'm making that up right now, but consciousfulness is actually a bit more true to the nature of what mindfulness is really about. When the ordinary mind hears the term mindfulness, it takes them in the wrong direction, as their unconscious mind automatically attempts to define it and believe that it understands it. True mindfulness, on the other hand, is a state of being and awakening where your eyes begin to open and you see through all of the external illusions as well as your own internal delusions. You begin to not only see the truth, but you begin to actively reconnect to it and interact with it on a consistent basis. Mindfulness is not simply something you can say you have. It requires diligent, consistent, and direct personal experiences with very specific practices in order to attain. If you tune into any of my previous material, there's a wealth of information about mindfulness that I've given on this podcast show, so you have more than enough to access to dig into this more deeply. The fundamental magnitude of developing mindfulness cannot be stressed strongly enough. Mindfulness is the very foundation of meditation and all meditative practices within any authentic spiritual system. Once mindfulness has been attained, you see the world much differently. You think much differently. You feel far more. And you awaken from the dream state that holds the great majority of humanity captive in its mindless slumber. Mindfulness holds the opportunity within any of its practices to experience a minor or even major awakening at any point in the practice or throughout the entire series of practices. When you achieve success with the practices of mindfulness, it is nothing less than transformative. You see, mindfulness is not simply a power that we unlock for ourselves. It is an incredible, amazing gift. It is a gift given to us only through diligent and consistent practice with the authentic mindfulness practices. Okay, since we've come this far anyway, indulge me as I share a couple personal examples from my life to better help illuminate the true nature of mindfulness, helping you clearly understand the difference for what it is and what it is not. Both of these examples I'll share with you in a condensed format here because of time constraints. I've shared recently with clients, especially last week I was sharing this with a client. So I'd really like to share them with you too, because I think they really help shed light on this. Example number 1, waking up in the morning. When most people wake up in the morning, they're incredibly groggy, right? Your mind is cloudy, your eyes don't want to open, your body's stiff and sore, you don't want to move. You can't really comprehend anything anybody's saying. You don't know what's going on around you. You get up, you fumble around, stub your toe as you're trying to get up, barely able to function until you have, 2 or 3 cups of coffee. This is an example of being mindless. Each morning when I awaken, I am consciously aware that I am waking up before my eyes even open. I'm aware of the room I'm in. I'm even aware of what's going on all around me, including immediately outside. I'm completely coherent. And then, as my eyes begin to open, I'm checking to make sure that my heart is still beating. At this point, I'm fully awake and fully functioning. And I offer my heartfelt appreciation for the fact that my heart is still beating and I get to live another day. And then I turn my head to look at the sweetest, most beautiful woman I've ever known. I don't think she's even aware of this. But when I begin turning my head, I'm actually a little afraid. I'm afraid to look because I don't want to be with anyone else. I don't want the incredible life that we have together to have been only a dream. When I see her face, my heart bursts with love and joy. I usually can't help myself. I have to wrap her up in my arms and hold her as tightly as I can. As tears fill my eyes, and I'm repeating in my mind, thank you, over and over again. This is how I begin my mornings. The difference between the two should be glaringly obvious, don't you think? The second example I'd like to share with you is about eating a meal. Yeah, something as mundane as eating a meal. But when you possess the power of mindfulness, there's nothing you do that is mundane anymore. You see, most people are mindless in that their mind is filled with thoughts that have nothing to do with the meal they're eating at the time. They're somewhere else instead of in the moment. Their thoughts take them somewhere else. They don't have an experience as they eat. They just fill their face while thinking about thousands of other things, anything other than what they're doing at the time. They don't place much importance on food quality, yet they're generally completely governed by how good something tastes to them, instead of how fresh, organic, and real the food is. Most of these people are eating in their cars or any of the fast food joints or whatever, right? They run in, fill their face, and then they're running out to do something else. Or they're sitting in front of the TV watching sports, cramming their face full of food as they're screaming at the players on the television. See, that is mindlessness. My incredibly wonderful wife and I go to the grocery store to do our weekly shopping. We carefully, mindfully pick out everything we purchase with great care. We inspect it. We make sure to get the best quality that we can find. We make sure it's GMO-free, organic, range-free, and all of the other things out there that we have to pay attention to right now to make sure we're getting decent quality food, because that's quite a battle these days. Then we feel for its freshness. By this, I'm not talking about merely squeezing it or thumping it or all of the other methods people have to test if something's ripe or ready. I'm talking about using the sensitivity that we have developed through mindfulness to the very life force that is within each one of us, that is within all things, that is all around us. We just tune into the life force. And we make sure that the food is still filled with nutrients. Then we feel what our bodies are needing and plan our weekly menu around that. When we purchase food, we're holding a high vibration. And we do the same thing when we cook it. This is actually what's meant by soul food, that you have an open heart, you're filled with love, appreciation, and joy as you prepare the food, because that vibration is going to affect your food. Knowing that, and then being able to prepare your meal accordingly, is mindfulness. We enjoy talking to one another as we prepare the meal together. Both of us in the kitchen, cooking away, helping each other. We're visiting the entire time, having a wonderful time together. We make sure that we are very mindful that the dishes we prepare are simple, healthy, tasty, and served up with a very pleasing presentation. You see, everything matters. Then during the meal, we play soft music, we have nice candles on the table. We dim the lights, and we mindfully engage our food. We enjoy our food. We slow down. We taste each bite. We savor the flavors of the food we just prepared. We talk about the flavors. We talk about the food. And we enjoy it as we enjoy each other through deep, heartfelt conversation. You see, mindfulness is the ability to be consciously aware of the unconscious. And most people, even when they have a sense of awareness, just for the fact that they're in a room or something, some normal ability of consciousness, of being conscious, maybe is a better way to put it, they're still unconscious because they're acting out of a sense of mindlessness. And I want to stress that when my wife and I do this, it isn't out of habit, it isn't out of obligation, it isn't forced in any way. It's because we enjoy doing it. We enjoy every aspect of it. We know it's healthy. We know it'll help our longevity. It'll allow us to keep enjoying the life that we love with each other so much longer. It'll allow us to do the things we love to do. See, we have to have this sense of mindfulness with our eating habits so that we have a sense of longevity and quality of life. Those things are necessary for living a fully engaged life. When I compliment her on the food, that compliment comes right from my heart. Well, maybe a little from my stomach, too. I can't lie. Maybe a little from my stomach, because she does an incredible job. And when I compliment her, though, it comes from my heart. And she knows it and she feels it. Because there's many times, as we're sitting there talking, that both of our eyes swell with tears, and she has to get up and come over and embrace me. And we sit there and hug each other and kiss each other. When was the last time you did that during your meal? And it's all spontaneous. It's all spontaneous. When you're mindful, you're governed more by what you feel as a sense of something beyond the emotions that are created by the mind. Not emotions that are created by thought, but emotions that are felt. That's what I'm getting at here. That is an incredibly important distinction to make. Hopefully that experience sounds just a little different to you than scarfing down a burger at a fast food place. Okay, so let's do the practices. Remember, the practice comes in two parts. The first part is the potential of mindfulness. Second part is the power of mindfulness. So we're going to engage the first part. Now, I've already gone through how to begin. So however you want to begin the practice, go ahead and set yourself up. Make sure that you get rid of the distractions. Always be mindful to do that. Be mindful to sit comfortably and exhale. And it works best if you are able to disconnect from your five senses so that you are not distracted by the external world. This is a meditative practice, a contemplative meditative practice. So you can do it by simply lying and kicking back, but it's far more effective. It's going to be a far deeper sense of contemplation than merely just thinking in your head if you are able to cross the bridge from the external world to your internal world. All right, so sit and relax. Just listen as I guide you through, and then you can make this practice last as long as you like, and you can work with it in a manner that fits you. But we're going to begin by contemplating the vast potential of mindfulness. Think about it. Is there anything that you couldn't accomplish if you were able to master a sense of mindfulness? Can you imagine how magical, how intense your life could be if you possessed such an amazing state of mindfulness? Imagine how much greater you could experience every single facet of your life if you had this state of mindfulness. That is when you are living a fully engaged life. Contemplate the potential this could unlock for you and how it would serve you as a powerful catalyst for all of your spiritual practices, meditative practices, and meditation itself. Just take a moment to reflect on that. Take those two examples that I shared with you, and then imagine if you were in that position, capable of that. Imagine if you were capable of that with every single thing you did. How amazing would your life be? Do you see that mindfulness holds the potential for you to experience an absolutely astounding life? And isn't that, after all, why you're alive in the first place? Continue that practice for as long as you like. When you're finished, make sure that you are mindful to open your eyes slowly, allow your eyes to adjust, and be mindful to get up slowly and carefully as you cross back from your inner world to your outer world and reconnect to the body and mind. And then carefully and mindfully rise up when you're ready, when you're steady, so you don't fall. Now, we're going to do the same thing as we begin the second part. Make sure that you practice the first part for a while. Don't go right into this one. Make sure that you have this deep feeling for the understanding of the potential of mindfulness before you get into the second part, which is the power of mindfulness. Assuming that you have paused this for a while and practiced that, we'll go ahead and move on. So this is part 2, the power of mindfulness. We're going to sit and relax just like you did before. Exact same process. Once you're there, we're going to understand that it's so incredibly easy to slip backwards or even be completely defeated in our ability to move forward in life as well as with our practices. And it is the power of mindfulness, more than anything, that allows us to prevent that from taking place. Can you recall some of the successes you've had in your practices and in your life because of a sense of mindfulness? Can you recall some of those moments when you just knew you were tuned into the moment? You were in the now. You're right then, right there, right now. And you were able to feel and be aware of so much that you were aware of all this deep meaning to everything that was going on. And you felt a deep sense of connection to everyone around you. Can you recall any of those times? Can you recall, even if it was a fleeting moment, can you recall that? Can you recall how mindful you were? Whether it was accidental or skillfully done. Mindfulness is not merely a power human beings can attain, but an amazing gift bestowed upon humanity and available to every single one of us through specific practices of mindfulness. Mindfulness is truly a powerful gift to be treasured. Contemplate on just how incredibly powerful you would be if you were armed with confidence, courage, and mindfulness. Is there anything that you wouldn't be capable of accomplishing in life? Take a moment to consider, too, how things such as confidence, courage, and mindfulness would serve as a solid foundation for living a fully engaged life. Know the power of mindfulness and become aware of every moment through that mindfulness that you are being mindful. My wife and I speak of this to one another constantly, and it's even through mindfulness that you are able to experience what is called a true soulmate relationship. And that, my friends, is what it takes to be a true power couple. Engage this practice as long as you like, and then again, get up mindfully, slowly, and go about your day. You can practice these contemplative, meditative practices as often as you like. They should be rather satisfying to perform. And before we put an end to this week's episode, I'd like to ask your help once again. Please make sure you are sharing this podcast with friends, family, anybody you know. Share it to your YouTube channel, your Facebook page, Twitter, whatever. Let's get the authentic spiritual practices out there. Keep them alive. Try to get something other than this silly fluff or whatever that's going on out there. All the dogma of different religions that are unnecessary. Let's get real, authentic spirituality out to people so that they can benefit from it. And what greater gift could you give to those that you truly care about? So please help me get this out there, and make sure that you hit the subscribe buttons, the like buttons, leave some comments. You know the spiel. You know what we need you to do. So I'm asking you to please help me out. All that stuff allows this to get out there. So together, we can add momentum to this incredible consciousness shift and help the world become a far, far better place. We can help create a heaven on earth. Also, visit me at www.expansionmastery.com. Get your signed copy of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life, for a mere $5. Come on, $5. I'll sign it and send it to you. Go to the website, put in the promo code Heaven on Earth, and you will automatically get your discount right on the spot, and I will get it out to you as quick as I can, usually next day or within a couple days. Until next week, my friends, I wish you all the best in your practices and your life. Take care.